Welcome back into Boxing Scene Today here at the ProBox TV studios. Well, we discussed his historic run through the heavyweight division. Oleksandr Usyk, what is left for him? Well, according to WBO, it is Joseph Parker. They want negotiations to begin immediately between him and Oleksandr Usyk about his next title defense. Is it worth it? Jimmy Smith in studio with the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and coach Robert Garcia. I got to start with the guy who thinks this is a good fight. Chris, you think it might be a tough one for Usyk?
Jimmy, I actually do think it's a good fight. I also think it's a pretty dangerous fight for Usyk. You know, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, what about these younger guys like a Moses Atuma? I think it's a little too early for them. Joseph Parker's a guy who's a seasoned pro. He's got a lot of experience. He's a former world champion. He's big for the weight class. He's athletic, and he's coming off a 3-fight win streak that, I mean, rivals any one of the top contenders right now. You know, he KOs Martin Bakole in his last fight. He beat Zhilei Zhang before that and Deontay Wilder before that. If anyone deserves a shot, it's Joseph Parker. And it's just unfortunate for him. He always seems like the guy who's on the outside looking in, doesn't ever get that shot. So I do think he deserves it. I also think it's a dangerous fight. Does he have enough to beat Usyk? I don't think anybody beats Usyk. So that's where I'm at. But I don't hate the fight.
Yeah, but Coach, I have to ask you, is there the danger factor here? When it came to Dubois, a lot of people thought Dubois would have a good night. He's awkward. He's a hard puncher. He had come off a big knockout. Do you have that same kind of energy when it comes to a Joseph Parker fight? Is there that threat when you're talking about Usyk, maybe the greatest of his era?
Look, I truly agree with Chris. I think Parker is a good fight. If he'll put up a great fight, I still see Usyk obviously taking over and dominating in another one spectacular performance. But let's also remember that Usyk is 38 already. So me personally, I like Usyk. I've known him. He trained in my gym, in Oxnard, and they're great people. Him and Klimas, we nothing but respect for that team. I would love to see him retire the way he is right now, on top of the world, because if he goes in there, like I said, I think he has no problem with Parker, but it's still going to be tough. It's still going to be difficult. His body's already taking a lot. He's 38. We're going to end up seeing him. If he continues fighting, we're going to end up seeing him against a young lion, totally dominating him because of his age, because of his body already. There are a lot of tear and wear in his body. And we're going to see a sad ending where that's what we're going to remember. I would love to remember him as the greatest of all time, because he's showing to be one of the greatest of all times. I would love him to retire now and just call it quits and be remembered as one of the greatest of all times. I know there's so much money out there. There's so much, big fights, and it's tempting, to anybody. So I can't blame him either. I can't blame him for not wanting to continue fighting, because he's still on top of his game. He could still dominate many of those fighters, but sooner than later, his body is not going to respond. His body's gonna be tired, and we're gonna see maybe a sad ending, and I would hate to see that with Usyk.
That's basically the elephant in the room here. We talk about Usyk fighting anyone. We can break down what that particular fighter brings, but in a sense, as a child of the 90s, Antonio Tarver didn't beat Roy Jones Jr. Age beat Roy Jones Jr. He just got old, and his reflexes weren't there anymore. And Muhammad Ali, Paulie, told the Dalai Lama. Muhammad Ali was told by the Dalai Lama. He was talking about a comeback. The Dalai Lama looked at him and said, "Mountains don't grow any higher. You're as good. Why would you do this when you don't have to?" But Paulie, you've always been an advocate of passing that torch on to the next generation, and going out on your shield to at least promote that next guy. Where are you in this debate, man?
Well, I am an advocate of that, or you just get out. You can do that.
You don't like him gumming up the works, is what you're saying.
I don't like. No, Canelo's not muttoning around like Canelo. I mean, Usyk's not muttoning around like Canelo. He's taking on very tough opposition. He's taking on the top opposition. I don't want somebody muttoning around where there's a top opposition and they just avoid them and continue, but they continue on.
Right.
And now you don't have a sport anymore. With Usyk, I tell you, man, you guys all made some points. I was gonna say something after Chris went. Then Robert made another great point, and I'm like, I gotta really address that too. That's a great point. And then you made a great point about Roy and Antonio, and I'm like, man, what do I address over here? We only got so much time. I'm really confused.
Pick yours, buddy.
Okay, so I'll start with yours.
Yeah.
Roy for me is the best light heavyweight I've ever seen on video, everything. But I will say, Antonio and him had a rivalry in the amateurs. Antonio also is one of the best amateurs ever in the history of this country, in the history of the world. He won every amateur tournament except the Olympics. He was the favorite going into the Olympics. He is in Roy's generation. Maybe it could have been Styles. Maybe it wasn't just. I will never know, unfortunately, because also you have to keep in mind Roy went to heavyweight and then came back down, and that really also
Killed
hurt
him.
right?
And still beat Tarver.
Yeah,
Close.
he beat him,
Close.
but it was close. But what I'm saying is, we will never know if that would have been a tough fight anyway, because Antonio was lights out for a while. You know what I mean? Like
Technically so good.
the amateurs, and also Roy is the superior fighter overall. But sometimes styles, they really get you. They you know, it's just there's a style. You can be a more complete fighter than somebody, but that style is kryptonite for you. You know, and we've seen it in the past. You know, so I just wanted to make a point about that, because I think Roy's the best I've seen, but at the same time, I don't know how to judge that rivalry with Antonio and Roy, you know, because I think when you look between in the microscope, you see Antonio's credentials, though they're very good, very, very good, very, very difficult. With Champ Chris's point, three fighters in a row Parker beat. I am also an advocate for the guys getting their title shot when they deserve it, right? And Joseph Parker at this point has been hanging around. He's been winning. He's been a mandatory. He's got to get a title shot. You can't Benavidez this guy too. You know what I mean? So you gotta eventually get him a title shot. Is he the threat Benavidez was to Canelo? No, likely he probably doesn't beat Usyk. You know, but you put your work in. You go to work every day. You get your results. You deserve the title shot. You can't just be tossed to the scrap heap just because you're not exciting enough. You know, this is still a sport. Results have to matter more than anything else. Even though obviously the entertainment value does hold some value there as well. However, looking between the lines, you talk about the 3 wins in a row. Bacoli was on no day's notice.
Off the couch, yeah.
Zhang and Wilder were both 125 years old, like the barber said
Coming to America.
Coming to America. But having said that, he's getting the wins.
Parker was the underdog in both of those fights.
He was the underdog in both those fights. That's why he is who he is. You see right there, they are who we said they are.
Crown him.
He makes
Crown
the point.
That's right.
And I'm like, you know what? You can't look back at you can't judge things in hindsight. In foresight, he was the underdog. He won 2 fights as an underdog. Having said that, so the Dubois, he didn't beat Usyk. So I don't know if he beat Usyk, but I do think he deserves the shot. Coach Garcia makes another great point, and it complements you with Dalai Lama and Ali, with do mountains go any higher? And Coach, you mentioned about there's money on the table, and somebody told me long ago there's no such thing as extra money. But at what point is it greed? At what point is it not? Because from what I heard,
made like 120 million.
Yeah, I heard 121 million dollars was good. So I don't know. I mean, listen, no such thing as extra money. I kind of get it, but you know,
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But then there's a piece of you. These Eastern Europeans are like robots, dude. They don't even do it for the money. No. They do it for the fanaticism of the glory and Mother Ukraine and so on and
pride.
so forth.
There's a lot of pride.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, man. Like it's a different mentality. It's a different culture. At a certain age, I feel like most normal Western guys think like, you know, I gotta take care of everything. I got other responsibilities post boxing. Like I got my faculties in check. I got my money. I'm good. No. These guys, they're like, I just want to keep achieving. I just want to keep achieving. I don't even think necessarily it's the money. I mean, I'm always gonna do it for free, but this guy just wants to keep achieving. But no matter what you achieve, like you're seeing now, what we talked about this the other day, no matter what you achieve, most people are not going to want to put you over Ali because the nostalgia. Like everybody's attached.
The emotional attachment.
The emotional attachment to the Ali name and all this other stuff. You know, and like I said, there's a comparable for both going both directions. You know, the more guys were going into boxing back then, so maybe more athletes were going into boxing, and it was a tougher era then. The counterpoint, like I said the other day, is the Eastern Europeans didn't turn pro till the 90s. So we're in an era where, you know, maybe it's tougher now because the Eastern Europeans are in the pros, and that was an entire part of the world that wasn't turning pro back then. You know,
the southpaw point.
Southpaw point as well. You know, heavyweights just didn't fight as southpaws until the modern day. So, you know, you're never going to win that argument either way. Yeah,
but we're going to be discussing Usyk's greatness, you know, for long after we're done.
But what I'm saying is, does Ali... The standard is not fair to Usyk. Ali lost to Spinks at 36. If Usyk loses right now, they'll take away a lot of his accolade. Like they'll
also
take
if
away.
He retires, they're gonna say it was open ended. There's always there's gonna be knocks no matter what.
Yeah.
But let me see if you guys agree, Coach and Paulie. I think Joseph Parker is a tough fight. And I don't mean tough in terms of like Dubois. You're like, it's a tough fight. He's big and he hits hard. Parker's scrappy, and he's a physical guy. He's bigger than Usyk, which not
almost
by much,
all of them now.
But he's
these days.
athletic and he moves and he's tricky and he's scrappy and he'll scrape by. He's a margins fighter. He'll win a round by margin, and it's fine as long as he wins the round, and he'll win the fight that way over and over and over. I think it's a tough fight.
Coach, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's a good fight. I think Parker puts up a good fight. He will put up a good fight. I don't see him dominating, obviously,
No.
but I do believe he puts up a good fight. And look, at going back to retirement and stuff like that, Paulie was right. These guys are not looking. The Eastern European guys, they're not looking to make $200 million. They do it because they love it. They have a passion for it. We just have that perfect example in Lomachenko. Decided to retire because his body's not responding, his body's not good, and he retires. He could have still picked up another $10-20 million fighting those guys, at lightweight division 140. There's a lot of money out there for him. He could have still done it, but his body's not responding, so he retired. I think Usyk will do the same thing when he knows his body is already giving up and not responding. If he continues fighting, it's because he's still able to compete 100%. So yes, he will dominate, but I do like the fight against Parker.
Yeah, with me, the reason, again, I'll reiterate, I think Parker deserves a title shot.
Yep.
I will reiterate that. He's earned it.
Most deserving guy in the division.
But I think when you're older, it's a pace that bothers you. And Parker fights at a crafty pace.
Yes.
It's not an overabundant pace where older guys are usually bothered by that.
Like a young guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't fight like a young guy.
I think if you fight that kind of crafty pace, Usyk can keep up with you. You're crafty, but so is Usyk.
Yeah.
And so I think.
But I think it's going to be chess back and forth for 6 rounds. I think the second half of the fight, Usyk just does what Usyk does, and Parker's not going to be able to keep up with the pace. Although Parker does have a good.
Do we have any comparables of Parker against Southpaws? There's never a lot of Southpaws in the
Zhang.
heavyweight division. Oh, Zhang. Yeah.
Zhang.
What I'm curious about, gentlemen, is does it? I'm gonna be careful with my wording here. Does it cheapen it a little bit? Let's say he gets past Parker. There'll be some other mandatory challenge. There'll be something. When it's just, okay, Father Time's going to get you eventually. When we know it's not the guy he's fighting. And we always bring this up every time, that at his age, one fight, you don't have it anymore. As Coach just brought up, Lomachenko, I didn't have it anymore, so I retired. This idea that if we're waiting for Father Time to catch up with him, does it kind of cheapen the fights? Because, look, somebody's going to get him eventually. It doesn't mean they're better. What do you think
That
about
happens to all of us.
Yeah.
It happens to all of us. Like I lost to Conor Benn in my last fight. Doesn't mean he's better than me. Doesn't mean he did more than I did in my career. It's just I was old, and it happens. And I think it happens to all of us. And like Robert said, like you get this sad ending. That's kind of how every story ends for fighters, except for Lomachenko and certain guys, or Andre Ward. But the guys who consistently push themselves, the guys who consistently try to fight the best out there. And Robert, you're saying about the Eastern European guys being around those guys. I was the same way. I didn't really fight for money. The money was a surprise to me when I didn't realize I could make so much money. I wanted to be a world champion, and then when I got like that first big check, I was like, oh wow, I never expected to make that much money. And then I kept making money, but that wasn't why I kept coming back. I made like 3 comebacks. I came back because I wanted to fight. I liked the fight, and I could, and I stopped because I couldn't anymore. My body wouldn't respond. Someone told Lomachenko, could I have made more money if I just kind of pushed through and just got through it? Yeah, but that wasn't why I ever fought. I retired because I said I can't train hard enough to be at the level to be a world champion. And if I can't be a world champion, I don't want to fight. Right. That was my end. And a lot of guys don't take that. They'll take that short money, or that if it's long money sometimes, because you usually make the most money at the end of your career, and you end up with sad endings. And sometimes you do either way. So it's a tough sport to leave.
Well, then when do you think it happens in terms of opponent, Paulie? Do you think it's a particular opponent, or is it Usyk runs out of gas and just says, well, as Coach says, in the middle of maybe a camp and just going, you know what? Don't have anymore.
I mean, a guy like this who doesn't do it for the money, you could see also in the middle of a camp be like, all right, I don't have it, I'm done. It wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict. It's hard to predict the personality of guys like this. But
that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah.
I expect them having trouble in camp and being like, all right.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Like the Klitschko's did that.
Yeah. But we talk about if he doesn't keep going, there'll be the criticism. There was no criticism for Lennox when he didn't give Vitaly a rematch. There was a little bit at first, but overall, people by and large look at Lennox like right behind Ali in terms of the heavyweight all-time picture, right? Mm-hmm. So if Usyk were to retire, or even if he gets a win over Parker and retires, what are you gonna tell me? Cabell would have beat him? I mean, what do you got? I mean,
And if he does, it would be what Jimmy was saying. It's just like, you get it. How much do you chalk that up to just age?
Yeah, exactly. So like because, you know, I'm a big Ali fan, but you know the standard is very different with Ali. You know, the standard is very, very different with Ali. He gets a lot of passes in a lot of ways, and you know what? Maybe he deserves it because he did a lot outside of boxing. I think that's why he gets it. But I think when you're going boxer for boxer, you got a really tough comparable here with Ali and Usyk. It's that tight, and even Lennox, honestly.
Lennox, dude. I have a hard time.
Lennox in his prime,
Yes,
is also another one. Those three right there are.
I think those are the three.
And it's very, very difficult if you tell me at their best match them up against one another. It's very, very difficult to guarantee
clear winners.
The clear winner, you know. But I think only those three, and I'm not sure if anybody else comes in that space. And there's a lot of other great heavyweights in history. I know you're gonna tell me like the Joe Lewis's and everything, but Joe Lewis moved like at the speed of molasses in the ring.
And he was
Boxing
180
very,
pounds.
very different.
And a very small heavyweight, which is normal in that era.
Yeah.
So, Coach, you know, to kind of put a button on this from your perspective, Usyk at this point, legacy-wise, is he playing with house money? He's the best of his era for sure. I am with Paul. I put him top 3 all time as a coach. Is that where you put him as well?
I agree. Top 3 for sure. He's doing great. And look, one thing about the heavyweight division right now, there's a lot of big fights out there for him that might not be very risky because we don't have any of the young, unless I'm wrong, but I can't think of any right now, young heavyweights that we could see that have that potential of, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now could be, you know, dominating.
Jalalov.
If there's one, you know,
Jalalov, coach. He's about 6'9", right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
And he's
So
in
that's one thing.
Uzbek. But again, it's one of those Eastern guys, you know.
It's Wardley,
Nobody's
Ituma, and
talking
Jalov.
about it yet. Nobody's bringing him up. You know, like I haven't. You know, like I don't hear much about him or anything like that. So those are the things. So Usyk could still do a few more fights, couple more fights like that, and retire whenever he wants, and be one of the greatest of all times. He is one of the top 3 for sure.
Well, only history can tell us, and as it makes history and as it makes news, you'll see it right here on Boxing Scene Today for the champs. For Robert Garcia, Jimmy Smith, thank you so much for joining us, and always tune in, find out why millions are watching.